Hello, my name is Dr. Murray Cook. Welcome to the best of Stirling with Stirling Highland Games. Behind me is St Ninians Well. This was the scene in 1659 of a confessed act of witchcraft. Bessie Stevenson, after torture in what was Stirling's biggest ever witch trial, confessed to performing magic in the well at midnight. She was found guilty and executed. Now, I said that she confessed, right? Now, what does confession mean? Now, 17th century witch trials, these are based on the idea that witches are real. The king believes in witchcraft. Remember, Macbeth is written for James VI. So the highest level of society believes that witches are real and that they're an active force in the overturning of society. They are in much the same way we view terrorists or paedophiles. There's this kind of extreme level of people operating on the margins of society, trying to do bad things. So they believe that witches are real. So how do you get a witch to confess? Torture. The first thing you do is take her clothes off her, or his clothes, because there are male witches too. You then shave the hair. You are looking for signs of the devil. You're constantly asking them questions. You don't let them sleep. If that doesn't work, you bring out the witch prick. Now, this is a bronze pin, and you go systematically across the body, pricking the accused witch, looking to find a spot where the witch feels no pain or no blood has been lost. And that's the point where the devil touched them and sealed the compact. Now, of course, we don't believe in this. This is nonsense. These are thousands of people accused of a crime they didn't commit. But if after this torture, if after sleep deprivation, you decide you've broken down mentally, you simply want it to be over, so you confess. And that's your fate sealed. You're a witch. You've confessed to being a witch, and the next stage is what's going to happen to you. And poor old Bessie Stevenson, executed in Stirling in 1659. Hello, back again. We're outside the city walls this time. These are the best preserved city walls in Scotland. People in Stirling are known as sons and daughters of the rock. That's the rock there. 400 million year old volcanic extrusion. On top of that rock is the city wall. Behind me is one of two surviving gun emplacements on the wall. You can see the gun loops. These are for cannons to project and fire outwards. These walls were built in the middle of the 16th century to stop Henry VIII forcing Mary Queen of Scots to marry his young son. She fled to France and married the French Dauphin. Later on, of course, she would come back, and that's when she was the threat. She was the heir to the throne of France, the throne of Scotland, and the throne of England, which made her a triple threat to Elizabeth I. And of course, she was Catholic and French backed. Hello again. We are right in the middle of the medieval borough of Stirling, founded in the 12th century. Normally this is hustling and bustling, but of course we're filming in the middle of the lockdown. So we're trying to encourage people back to Stirling, and this is normally thronging with tourists coming up to see the wonderful castle. The building behind me is the centre of justice and administration in medieval Stirling. It's the Tolbooth. This is where Bessie Stevenson was found guilty in 1659. Now, not this building, but this spot. And behind me on the street, in front of the Tolbooth, is where she was executed. Infamously, the Tolbooth also saw the trial of Baird and Hardy in September 1820, who were found guilty of insurrection, of trying to overthrow the state in what's known as the Radical War. Now, what they wanted to do was they were fighting for voters' rights. This is often argued to be the birth of the Labour Party, the birth of the voting movement in Britain, in Scotland. But these guys, radical weavers from Paisley, intelligent, self-educated working men, picked up arms against the state. There is some evidence that the state may have provoked them into doing it so that they could hunt them down and execute them. Now, the penalty for treason was to be hung, drawn and quartered. Now, as this was the 19th century, a more enlightened age, the sentence was commuted to hanging. They were hanged outside the Tolbooth, right in front of it. A third of the town turned up. The crowd was so big that the hangman didn't want anything to do with it, and he brought someone else in who was disguised. So he hanged them. And then someone else chopped their heads off with an axe so that someone could hold their heads up and go, "Here's the head of a traitor." This is the last time anyone in Britain was beheaded by the state, September 1820, 200 years ago this year. An incredible, bloody, barbaric act. So we've moved. So the Tolbooth is in front of me. Behind me is the Old Town Jail. This represents a radical departure for punishment in Stirling. The Tolbooth was about physical punishment. Nobody was really imprisoned there. Small numbers of people waiting till they were punished. The punishment for their crime was actually always physical. So we heard about beheadings, executions. Another one is lugging, where your earlobe is nailed to a post and people hurl abuse at you. You also had the stocks. The jail, by contrast, the emphasis here was on imprisonment. Your punishment was to be imprisoned, a deprivation of labour. Now these were very, very effective. They were also very costly because prisoners were kept alone in isolation. And what they did was they cranked a rack all day, or they unpicked hemp. They did mindless, repetitive tasks. And this kept them from associating with other prisoners, and that was the punishment. And that's well worth visiting. Through the summer there are normally shows and tours of the building, and these are well worth visiting.